All right, joining me once again here on the Matthew Filipovich Show is my good buddy Steve Horn. Steve is an investigative journalist whose work has been seen in The Nation, The Guardian, Center for Media and Democracy, and Alternate. He is a research fellow at DeSmogBlog, which you can find at DeSmogBlog.com. You can also follow him on Twitter at Steve_Horn1022. Steve, thank you so much for being on the show again.
Yeah, thanks again for having me.
All right, so Steve, buddy, the last time you were here, we talked about a massive oil spill in North Dakota. In the month or so since you've been here, there has been yet another environmental disaster in North Dakota, this time involving an exploding train. Tell us all about it.
Sure, yeah. So, and when we talked about the spill before, that was in a small town called Tioga, North Dakota. Still unclear what's happening there. I don't think it will even be able to be cleaned up until it gets a little warmer in North Dakota.
Because it froze, like we were talking about. The oil's actually frozen. It's oil sickles up there.
Exactly. And I was told by someone at the North Dakota Department of Health then that they're putting that oil to bed for the winter. I think that he thought that was funny, but I don't think that a lot of people think that was funny because no one really knows what's going to happen with that oil come March or April when they're able to measure it in the soils and groundwater. Anyway, that leads us to the next explosion that happened in a small city by the name of Castleton, North Dakota, which is about 30 minutes west of Fargo, North Dakota. And this was a train owned by Burlington Northern Santa Fe, BNSF, which is owned by Warren Buffett. And the train was carrying the same type of oil. That's oil that was hydraulically fractured or fracked via fracking in the Bakken Shale Basin in North Dakota, which if you go up to space, you can actually see it from a satellite, all the lights on, because there's so much oil drilling going on there and so much flaring of the gas byproduct. So it's a huge field. And in carrying that oil, a train exploded. Basically, if you watch the video on YouTube, it looks akin to Hiroshima or something with how big that fireball was. And it keeps growing and growing and growing over that 30-second video. You just see it you think that the fire is going to die down and it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. There's two versions of the story here. There's one version of the story that it was sort of a natural sort of derailment or maybe a crash with another freight train carrying grains. That's the industry's story. Then there's the scientist's story, which is that, well, look, this Bakken shale oil is a little different than conventional oil in terms of the chemical compounds in it, its chemical content. And this may have led to it exploding first and then derailing. So there's it's a cause and effect type of situation here. And that's what we're dealing with. And I think that the latter explanation is, I think, more plausible to me. Just days after this huge explosion happened, which luckily didn't kill anyone because it happened outside of downtown just by about half a mile. The Pipeline and Hazardous Materials Safety Administration came out and said, oh yeah, this stuff is more prone to fires and explosions than normal oil, which is kind of sickening because they've been fracking this stuff for years. And just now, after something huge happened, after actually a few of these huge explosions happened, they finally told the public this. It took that for them to do it. But that's why I'm more prone to believe the explanation that it was an explosion then a derailment, rather than a derailment then an explosion.
Well, actually, you uncovered the fact that they came out with this just after that is one thing, but that's something that they have known for quite some time, because you actually found some damning evidence on a permit application that does show that these companies are well aware of how volatile this type of oil actually is.
Correct, yeah. And if you trace where this train was going, this BNSF freight rail train, it was headed from, well, it was in Castleton at the time, but it was on its way to Missouri, in a small city along the Mississippi River. And I first traced that through to see where it was going, and then I noticed that where it was being taken was to a holding facility owned by a company called Marquis Energy, Marquis Energy, and they had to submit a permit to the Missouri Department of Natural Resources. And in that permit, they said, oh, this oil that we're going to be barging down the Mississippi River that will eventually go to Louisiana and wherever else along the Mississippi River too. This stuff, we need to have a special conditions permit. So here's our special conditions permit. And I looked at the permit, and on the permit itself, it says that the reason why they needed it is because the oil contains volatile organic compounds such as benzene, toluene, xylene, etc. Benzene's a carcinogen. The other ones are things you definitely don't want to be breathing in or consuming, and they can make you very sick. And they also are very explosive type of compounds. And that's the kind of thing that's kind of the smoking gun here, is that they admitted it on that permit, even though BNSF hasn't really said much about it. And even though finally the federal government has chimed in on it, at the state level in Missouri, this was something that was, this permit was given in 2012. So it's been known about for quite a while.
And also, not only is the permit in 2012, there was, you wrote about, there's actually was another train that exploded in Canada in July of last year, and that one, luckily the one in North Dakota, nobody died, but it wasn't the same. In Canada, it was some 47 people died up there, right?
Yeah, that was in Lake Megantic, Quebec, and 47 people died immediately vaporized by this strong, horrifying fire. The photos in Lake Megantic were so scary. I mean, it happened just on a nice summer day where people were out drinking or out socializing, and all of a sudden basically a bomb explodes in their city. These things are now being referred to by activists as rail bombs, or just basically bombs on the rail because of the capability of exploding the way that they do. So yeah, there's an ongoing trial with this situation in Lake Megantic, a class action lawsuit, and I plan on following up on that lawsuit itself for a future story and talking to the attorney who filed that lawsuit. But we're very lucky in the United States that no one has died from, I hate to put it so bluntly, but no one has died or been seriously injured by these trains so far. And I think in Castleton, at least, they really dodged a bullet by not having happened what happened in Lake Megantic, just because it happened just about a half a mile away from where a lot of people live.